So are we really separate from others? That's the kind of common sense view, isn't it? You know, that we're kind of contained within the outline of our body. But what about at the level of consciousness? So we're going to be meditating together on that and exploring that this evening. So very well and welcome to the live stream. My name's Maitrinara, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a ordained member of the Triratna community, and I'm a teacher at Brixton Buddhist community. And yeah, we've been throughout the lockdown, we've been putting on these live streams as part of our connection with the wider world, sharing the Dharma, sharing meditation. So if you like what you're seeing, if you engage with what you see, just press subscribe and alerts, and then you can kind of keep up to speed with everything we're doing. So yeah, so let us know. So I'm here, Adam's here on doing the tech. Let us know if you're, if you're turned up in the chat. Let us know that you're here, and I'll give some shout outs later. And also there's be a chance to ask some questions. So if anything occurs to you throughout the course of the stream, throughout my talk or any other time, just write a question in the chat box, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it towards the end of the session. Okay, so yeah, so what we'll do is just to really arrive, no matter what kind of day we've had, and we may well have been kind of looking at screens already a good bit today. Let's just get ourselves present to what's happening. We can only really take things in if we're kind of present to what's happening. So I'm going to just lead us in a short body scan, which is going to get us tuned in with ourselves. Yeah. Okay, so you don't need to do anything special. You can just sit on a chair or on the sofa, wherever you are, or if you've got your cushions already set up, you can just sit yourself on your cushions and get yourself into your meditation posture. But you don't need to do anything special, just a kind of fairly upright position. Okay, so let's just settle ourselves into what's happening right now. So you can, maybe with the eyes closed, you can already tune into a broader sense of what's happening. You've got sound, the soundscape, sound emerging and submerging around you. And you might be able to feel a kind of sense of spaciousness around you, extending out into whatever room you're in and beyond, a kind of sense of spaciousness. And then we can get aware of ourselves sitting here, wherever we are. We just start to tune into the sensations that are present. And one way to approach that is just to feel them as energy. So they're energy with a very particular quality you can feel directly. So getting a general sense of the energy of the body. And then getting a sense of your connection with the ground. And just allowing the weight of your lower body to drop into that connection with the ground. So the ground is vast and deep and solid, and it can take your full weight. You can just give your weight up. And then just noticing the sensations present in your tummy, in the area of your tummy. Maybe notice if you're holding on. We often grip on in that area, don't we? So just noticing if you're holding in any tension in the tummy. And maybe taking some deeper breaths into the tummy, just starting to let go, starting to relax. And then just feeling this whole mass of sensations as they rise up your upper body. Feeling into that area in the upper back. In the area around the shoulders. And then bringing your attention up into the neck and the head. Kind of feeling the energy there. Does it feel a little condensed maybe from the day? Noticing the area around the forehead and eyes. And seeing if you can allow the eyes to soften by just coming into a more relaxed gaze behind the eyelids. Allowing the forehead to soften. So it just feels like your face is resting. Coming into contact with the sensations around the chest. So just seeing if you can feel your way into those sensations. The energy, does it feel a little tight, constricted, or maybe it feels quite open? Just over we are just now, just breathe in with that. If you can notice any sense of ease, just allowing that to spread and diffuse into the whole of the body. And just noticing yourself sitting there with the weight dropping into the floor, ready to engage with this exploration or meditation. Okay, great. So we've got quite a few people tuning in, so really good to see you, Lynn, in wheelchair. There's Ian's here. Good to see Ian. Andrew. Joe's here, and also Joe with an E. Good to see you. Alex and Rob. Good to see you guys. Viruganaga's here in the room out the back. Good to see you there, Virunaga. Emma's here. Hi, Emma. And hi, it's Corinna here, and she's in Brixton as well, so that's good. We've got some locals here and some people further afield. And there's Nigel H. Good to have you with us. Okay, so let's have a look at this evening's subject together. So if you may have tuned in over the last couple of evenings, we've been looking at the Buddha's 4 spheres of mindfulness over the last couple of Mondays. And this is going to be a series that's spread over 6 weeks. So over the last couple of Mondays, we've been looking at the subject of the body, sensations in the body, sensations in the mind. From a Buddhist sense, there's this 6th sense of planning, memories, thoughts and so on. So they all have a kind of sensation quality to them as well, which can also be felt as Vedana. And we looked at that last week. This kind of feeling tone that's associated with everything we experience. Everything has a certain kind of feeling tone. So we had a look at that last week. And well, tonight we're going to look at other people. So other people, which makes up so much of our experience, is other people. So I've been reflecting, as I'm sure we all have, to varying degrees, about the effect on this lockdown. Well, we've all been considering that. I've been considering it from the point of view of threat. I've been feeling that with the introduction of phrases like social distancing and lockdown, it all has this certain kind of quality of threat to it. And yeah, that's something I've been getting interested in, and sometimes that comes in relationship to other people. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on. At the beginning of this whole period, at the beginning of this coronavirus crisis, it was quite interesting, wasn't it? There was this kind of sense of momentum or coming together. Kind of in adversity, which I don't know how you're feeling about, but it seems to slightly waned as we've kind of veered back into kind of political polarisation and so on. Yeah? And what I've been reflecting is that can there be, so there's a lot of memes and a lot of talk and a lot of interest in what would come out of all this, and I'm just going to pose the question: can we really affect change when we view each other as separate, when we feel that deep down that we are separate from one another? Yeah, because when we're doing that, there's always going to be this sense of me over here identifying with, well, all the kind of preferences, likes, dislikes that I have, and you, well, all of you out there, and of course that's going to doing the same thing, and of course that's going to come into conflict, isn't it? Of course that's going to not phase with everybody kind of adhering to their own and identifying with their own likes and dislikes, and feeling themselves as separate and contained over here as distinct to others over there, which can be kind of inherently threatening. So there's this little quote from Sangharakshita, who's the founder of True Atma movement. He says, "The only way not to hate people is to love them." So we'll be unpacking that a little bit. The only way not to hate people is to love them. So one of the keys ways to attenuate or kind of thin out this sense of separateness, or one of the benefits of starting to thin out this sense of separateness, is that you start to get a sense of moving away from this sense of threat. Yeah, when I've been meditating, I feel more open and more open, at ease with others. Not all the time, but that's the general momentum. Yeah, so this sense of threat can start to soften. So moving away from that and moving towards, again, this sense of solidarity, this wonderful feeling of solidarity, of togetherness that I think was experienced, you know, like in an unprecedented way, in this kind of global sense of togetherness, a kind of empathetic togetherness. So this wonderful movement towards that sense of togetherness. And then it's also just getting closer to reality, just getting closer to the way things actually are. Yeah, that everything's conditioning everything else, and that we are no different. Yeah, our psychophysical organism is constantly being conditioned and influenced by others, and they are being influenced by us. Yeah, and even just in the same room, one can feel that, can't we? So it's quite interesting. The Buddha didn't include other people in the four spheres of mindfulness. He said the four spheres of mindfulness contained the whole of the human experience, but he didn't explicitly put other people into that. So what's going on there? Well, it might be useful to kind of cast our minds or cast our imaginations back into rural India, where there would have been this, people would have just been in and out of each other's lives the whole time. Just the idea of the way we're living now would have been quite strange and quite unlikely from the Buddhist perspective. Yeah, so how we're living now, you know, it is a lot more separate than that. Often we're living separated from each other, quite distanced from one another, distanced from even from loved ones. Often just in front of the computer in quite kind of isolated, a psychic kind of space. So it's maybe for that reason that it would have been hard for the Buddha to imagine maybe how far we've moved from the kind of society where people just really in and out in each other's lives, you know, pretty much all the time. But nonetheless, the Buddha did declare friendship to be at the heart of the spiritual life. He declared that friendship, in fact, was the whole of the spiritual life. That can often even seem a bit strange to people. So they can, often Buddhism's associated with meditation, which seems like this kind of rather solitary endeavour, doesn't it? But once one starts to meditate for any length of time and with any kind of seriousness, you start to realise that, well, what the Buddha was talking about was meditation practice for the benefit of all beings. Because without that, it just doesn't make sense. Without that, this idea that I can practice just for myself and I can kind of be a contained unit of happiness in an unhappy world is just it doesn't make sense. So what is this kind of drift of growing up, growing towards living for the sake of ourselves and other beings as kind of non-separate? Well, if we think about a toddler, they're completely reliant on their mother, aren't they? And then that kind of wanes or that kind of changes as one becomes grows up, goes to school, becomes a teenager, becomes an adult. So it does seem like this movement of maturation is a movement of moving from kind of self-absorption and my kind of needs to the consideration of others. So that's well, from a Buddhist perspective, that is the maturation process. And yeah, so again, Sangharakshita, he has a quote: "Love is awareness of another being, or of another's being." Yeah, so love is an awareness of another's being. Yeah, so that intimates a kind of exchange there, doesn't it, or a recognition, at least, a real taking in of the other person. And yeah, I guess from a Buddhist point of view, one way to really notice is that we're making any sort of progress at all is that we're becoming a bit more kind, a bit more considerate of other people. Yeah, so yeah, a lot's talked about a kind of being kind to oneself and so on, and that does have inherent in it these kind of dangers present of kind of self-absorption. Yeah, so we just got to be a little bit careful of that kind of language, and just really have a look at our relatedness. I'll just tell you a story in regard to this. So I first came along to Buddhism, came along to a big Buddhist centre in East London called London Buddhist Centre, and I walked in and I was really nervous. It took me ages to pluck up the courage to have gone in there, and I think I kind of intimated that I had kind of built a self, quite a kind of overtly kind of confident self, but I think I was aware that it was covered over a lot of not really knowing quite who I was, yeah. And I kind of intimated that moving into this centre, or going into this centre, into this Buddhist centre, would put me into contact with people that might see through that, might somehow really reach towards me. And I found that kind of scary. I found that kind of scary. Yeah, I do have a lot of sympathy for people that are, kind of, a bit reticent to step into our Zoom rooms or come into a Buddhist centre for that reason, that they might feel a little wary of kind of being seen, So it's quite interesting, all of that. So we have these practices given to us, don't we, about how to attenuate or thin this sense of separateness between ourselves and others. And the Metta Bhavana is the classic meditation for this purpose. So why does it start with ourselves? Why do we start with ourselves in the Metta Bhavana? Well, whether we like ourselves or we dislike ourselves, what we need to recognise, what's really important to recognise, is that whether we like ourselves or not, whether we feel like we've got a good self-esteem or not, there is this basic drive to be happy. Yeah, even in our more destructive kind of habits, there's a kind of urge. We're trying to get through to something akin to kind of fulfillment or happiness. Yeah? Even when we're acting unkindly, usually it's to try to kind of push away what's getting in the way of our happiness. So it's good to just recognize this basic desire is what's driving us, because understanding this basic desire will get us in touch with our energy, and we can just start to direct that then into things which will actually be able to create that sense of fulfillment and that sense of engagement, including with others. So this is I forget who did this, had made this quote, but this is a quote from poetry. It's, what we love in ourselves is ourselves loving. So what we love in ourselves is ourselves loving. So it's for me, it's a really lovely evocation of what we really can cherish in ourselves is our ability to love, is that kind of innate sense, or that innate faculty of love, especially as it starts to develop. And the second reason we start with selves, we've got to kind of work out where we're at, where are we starting from, and get a basis for connection. We're kind of connecting with our moods, emotion, what's kind of the energy in the body, what's kind of going on, so that we have a kind of basis for the meditation. We can start to work with our minds on that kind of basis of reality. So we've got to recognise what's going on. So recognition, kind of recognising what's happening, not censoring it. If we're in a foul mood, we know we're in a foul mood, not censoring anything, and then seeing how we're orientating to that. So are we orientating to it with kindness and inclusiveness and a kind of open-heartedness, or are we trying to push that away and get rid of it, censor it, like I say? So looking to see, recognising where we're at, and then kind of looking at our orientation to that. So what's our basic position to others? Well, one way of looking at it is that there's this basic spectrum of like to dislike, and everything in between. But at the level of consciousness, the question that we started off with is, are we really separate? According to Sangharakshita, and in a certain way, this kind of maps very kind of cleanly with science. There is a kind of, one could express it as a level of consciousness in everything. Every living thing has a level of consciousness, or is vibrating at a certain level of consciousness. So trees and grass, and then at high level animals, the whole animal kingdom, and then of course in human beings that consciousness is at a more developed level. So therefore we kind of use other people make up most of our most of what concerns us in a way. That's at that same level of consciousness. So really, if we're looking to develop a happy mind, a content mind, a fulfilled mind, one has to be in friendly connection with other people. It just even if you wanted to get away from other people, you can't. You can't get away from other people. There's this another quote. I'm big on the quotes tonight, but there's this another quote: "Never least alone than when fully alone," because what floods your mind is when you're alone is other people, your relationships, your connections, and so on. So at that level of mind, we're always in connection with others. So there really is no getting away, even though I know all of us at times would like to do so. So let's have a little look at what friendship is, because this is the second stage of the metta bhavana. It's giving someone your, one way of looking at it is giving someone your full attention. Kind of taking back your emotional projections, that is to say, just not liking them on the basis of your preferences, but you're just seeing them for themselves and from their own side. Yeah. In a way, they're not there, or don't exist to make you happy. They exist from their own side. So we use these phrases, don't we, in the metta bhavana, and they're really concerned with kind of shifting our self-concern to include other concern. They kind of stimulate and shift our concern, kind of gently in that direction. So, and then recognizing the basic drives in other people is really, really important as well for this this sense of solidarity. So then moving on to the neutral person. The neutral person is in a way makes up most of humanity, doesn't it? Excluding kind of friends, lovers, colleagues, family. Which makes a really small proportion of humanity. Everyone else are just people, aren't they? And it's quite interesting. You walk down the street, people are just people until they kind of either give you a cause to like them or dislike them, and then you start to notice them. Yeah, to bump into you. Suddenly they kind of emerge into your consciousness, or you're attracted to them and they emerge into your consciousness. Yeah, but most of the time, other people, they're kind of background. But this interest has a quality in itself. We think of it as a non-quality, but actually it has an interest in itself, and we can actually engage with that, and we can actually move into that. And there was this idea that the Buddha always smiled first. He didn't wait to kind of check people out, see if he liked them or not. He always smiled first. So there is a way of moving into that neutrality, which shifts it into a friendlier kind of zone. Yeah? So, and then it develops, doesn't it? The metta bhavana develops into other people that we're not getting on with. I mean, this is interesting territory because we think of ourselves as really affectionate. We could like to think of ourselves in that way anyway. But what we can get into touch with here in this stage is a kind of our darker side, our envies, our ill will, our resentment. It's there if we just care to look for it, and it's really important to reclaim that and to take responsibility for that. And as one starts to get into practice, quite shocking actually, as one starts to notice these qualities of our mind, but notice them we really must. So we're checking our kind of, again, we're recognizing what's going on in this stage, and then we're looking at orientation. We're looking towards how we orientate towards this person that we're finding uncomfortable. Is it helpful? Is it helpful the way we're orientating to them, or are we acting with aversion? I mean, ultimately, we're moving into the territory of forgiveness, which for some people can really take for certain people in your life that can really take a long time. Yeah, but it's in a certain way. Well, what other alternative is there for a happy, at ease mind? Forgiveness needs to be there present. So it's important with that stage that we don't feel like we have to like people or even agree with people in order to love them. We're looking for this deeper sense of solidarity. Okay, so the final stage is with all beings, and with this stage we're just kind of creating an all-embracing kind of heart for all anything that exhibits consciousness, yeah, the whole animal kingdom, men, women, young, old, ill, not ill. So a kind of all-embracing heart that kind of just kind of take in the whole of humanity. So we're just in that. It's a kind of in that stage you just kind of relax and see if you can allow this sense to move outward. And so I'm going to explore now what we love in ourselves is ourselves loving. So let's set ourselves up for a period of nimitta bhavana. Maybe some of that has stimulated some kind of enthusiasm for the practice. So let's just ride on that and set ourselves up for meditation. Not say, don't need to do anything special. You can sit on a chair or the sofa. But if you're on your cushions, that's fine. So let's just set ourselves up for a period. Take a moment to just relax. And just allow all those words in a way to kind of wash away. So there's been a lot of words. So let's just broaden out with our eyes closed to take in vast space all around us. And within vast space, we can feel our sensations of our body as if they're contained in this much wider space. So taking a moment just to feel our way through our body, just finding any tensions, any areas we're gripping, holding to. And see if we can just start to soften. See if we can find some ease. So sensations. Feeling tone, there may be some feelings of pleasure, feelings of discomfort. And we're going to imagine ourselves now just sitting at ease on the top of a high hill. And landscape arranged all around us, however you want to imagine that. Forests, the hills, and just start to feel yourself up on this high hill. See if you can feel yourself grounded. So not separate from the earth, the deep earth. So feeling ourselves as not separate to this vast deep earth below us. And then all around, above and around, is a deep blue sky. When you look into a blue sky, it has depth, doesn't it? Different shades, where you can't see the horizon, can't see the ends of it. And this vast blue sky is like the nature of our mind. So we're not separate from that. And the air is perfectly warm because the sun is there warming us with its rays. We can feel those on the back, warming the whole landscape without any sense of exclusiveness. The warmth and light, the qualities of the sun. Feeling ourselves here, just whatever's going on can be held by that vast deep earth below, sky-like nature of mind, and this warmth. So whatever sensations there are present, whatever tensions or thoughts, emotions, all just held by the deep earth below, the vast spaciousness of mind and the warmth of the sun. So we don't need to try too hard in this situation. We can just let ourselves be however we are. Feel the energy of the body. And now we're going to invite a good friend into this space. So just bringing them up close to us, up on this high hill. Just whoever comes to mind is fine. Just get a sense of them sitting down here with us in the sun. And as it were, taking them in from their own side. They are from their own side, driven towards happiness, that same drive in them means they would like to be free of suffering in whatever form it comes. And they would like to find contentment and satisfaction in their lives. So feel how it is to share this space with a friend. It's quite intimate in a way. And the sun, just hazy rays of the sun warming you both. So letting your good friend fade from your mind and just bring into mind now somebody who falls into that vast array of humanity where you don't feel strongly one way or the other. Maybe a neighbour, a colleague you don't work with directly, and when you see at the shops, just whoever floats to mind, that's the right person, and just see if you can bring them up there close, up on this hill with you. And again, from their own side, they have this drive to be happy. And of course, they would like to avoid suffering in all its forms as best they can. And they would like to find fulfillment in their lives. And noticing your own response, being in this space with this person. and the sun warms you both. The vastness of the sky contains you both, and you're both grounded, not separate from the earth. Now we're going to let this person go, let them fade from our minds, and bring to mind somebody that we're having some difficulty with at the moment, something that's live, that's troubling us. And just be bold and resolute. Welcome this person into this space with you. And noticing your response to having them close in your mind. And without trying to paper over any of the feeling that's there, see if we can reflect that this person has this same drive to be happy. And from that same drive to be happy, they would like to avoid suffering in all its forms as best they can. And they would like to make progress and find fulfillment in their lives. So taking in your response to being in this space with this person, allowing the sun to reach you both, vast space to contain all the feelings and emotions there, and the earth to support you. Finally, we're going to let this person go now. Just let them dissolve from our minds. And using as our basis the sun falling on each of the people that we've just spent time with. Just extend that out in your own way. So that the light and the warmth of the sun reaches further and further, falling on all beings. the insects and fish, animals, and all the human beings, young and old. In whatever situation they're in. And then we just start to relax any effort we're making. Coming back to ourselves, the energy of our bodies. Feeling ourselves sitting here grounded. Wherever we are. Connected. Okay, great. So let me have a little look and see who else has turned up. I see Pam's here and Cheryl's here. Good to see you both. Or not to see you, but to know you're there at least. So yeah, I'm going to take some questions in a moment, see if anything is occurred to you, or if there's any comments or anything that you even don't agree with. That would be fine as well. So you could just type that into the chat box, and I'll get to that in just a moment. Yeah, while you're doing that, I'm just going to say one or two things. So, yeah, so it's occurred to me that as we move through these different phases of the lockdown, well, the kind of mood, it always feels like the mood changes and shifts, doesn't it? And it starts to occur to me, well, what will kind of create the kind of world we want to live in? Yeah, there's been quite a lot of interest in that kind of area, kind of stimulated by what's happened. We're asking that for ourselves and asking that on a bigger level as well. And it really feels to me that the answer is not going to be in the politics. I mean, the politics has a huge influence on our lives is not up for question. But it has inherent in it all this polarization, doesn't it? All this polarized opinions, and a lot of that is driven by self-interest. So how are we gonna develop this world that we want to live in? Well, I think it's through community, not just Buddhist community, but a sense of community. But with a Buddhist community, we have got real basis tools to work on our hearts and mind, to work on this sense of connectedness, to loosen our self-interest. And it really, a community from Buddhist point of view is these individuals coming together, to kind of cooperating together to create something, yeah, through friendship, through energy, through connection. And that's what we're trying to do with Brixton Buddhist community. We're always inviting people into that. And we want to, well, we're trying to bring that online at the moment. We're trying to bring that online as best we can and keep fostering that sense of community, keep letting that kind of perfume pervade the atmosphere of our lives. But we need money to do that as well. Yeah, we need resources to do that. We need to share resources to do that. And we worked out we need £2,000 to really do everything we want to do to cover our commitments and to keep expanding out into new territories, reaching out to more people. So we've got a dharmometer. Dharma means generosity. We've got a dharmometer, and it's pink. It's pink this month, and here it is. Here's our dharmometer. We're almost halfway there. So out of the generosity of the community and people coming along and engaging with streams, we're almost halfway there. So really, really generous. Thanks for all your support. And if you're moved to give, you could go for a standing order, or you could, and then you could forget about it for the month, or you could just give what you're moved to do. And the descriptions are in the link below. Okay, so let's see. Do we have any questions? From what I can see, there are no questions. So you still have an opportunity to write in a question if you would like to. We've still got a few minutes left on the stream. I'm going to just talk about the Zoom call that's following. So the Zoom is, in a way, we're creating a space where you can really talk about meditation, and it's really important to talk about meditation, not to have it as this solitary me thing, but to actually share experiences and see what's working and how things, how we can enliven our practice. So we're creating this Zoom space afterwards to really encourage people to gather and talk about that. Yeah, so do come along to that if you move to. It's a very friendly space, and if you're new, you don't need to say anything particularly. If you don't want to, you could just come along and participate in that way. So that will be starting at 8:45. All right, so there is a question. Adam, what's the question?
Yeah, from KC. It was a comment. She says, I still struggle to forgive and always act with kindness towards the people in my life that are difficult and have caused me emotional harm.
Yeah, it's very. I think forgiveness is one of the most difficult things to do, because it feels, in a certain way, it feels counterproductive to forgive, doesn't it? Because you kind of want to. There's something in us that wants to hold animosity because we feel like we don't want to let this person off. Yeah, but there's a really good reason for forgiveness, which is that it's just so painful to hold on to animosity, isn't it? So I think with metta, one can start to make inroads. It can be very, very slow. It can be very slow. You can't kind of force this process. In fact, it's probably good not to force the process. You don't want to kind of get this premature kind of idea that you've forgiven, when you're still holding on to that kind of more deeper emotional aspect. So one needs to work on this slowly, patiently, and so on. But of course, freeing one's heart from that animosity, in a way, is the thing that this thing that we kind of want in our lives. As I said, a happy mind that is settled, at ease mind, is one that is not holding on to tensions in relationships to other people. So really worth persevering with, and just kind of really watching out for the stories. It's the stories that seem so true, don't they? They seem so they seem so true, these stories, and it's starting to kind of find the emotional tone underneath the story that's driving it, and start to see if you can start to question those stories, and start to see if you can attenuate or start to thin out that sense of kind of otherness. So yeah, well, good luck, Casey. I think it sounds like you already bringing that into your life, but it's a patient process, isn't it? Okay. Okay, so well, I hope that was helpful. Thanks very much for putting in that comment. So I'm going to draw things to a close. But yeah, so do move if you give. If you do give if you're moved, and do join us in the join Adam and Ian, who are going to be chairing the Zoom call from 8:45. Okay, but for now, very good evening.